Hello, my impatience. How art thou? It is I, Andrew the Android Koloski here. So, it's becoming apparent to me. My stepfather hated me. He terrorized me. He bullied me. But, like they say, the best revenge is massive success. The best revenge is to live life well. The best revenge is to not react. You know? My mother was a sadist too. It's just the reality. It's just the reality here. And I was not delusional, and I feel Dr. Copland should get sued. It's just that he controls the narrative and he has all the credibility because he's the doctor, you know? So he's not going to be going to jail or getting sued, though he should be, in my opinion. But yeah, he controls the narrative. He's the doctor. So he's just not. He's just going to say, "Oh, the medications were necessary and it was his choice," which is bullshit. Which is bullshit. But you know, I think they had malevolent intent to pharmacologically abuse me. But you know, Doctor Copland is just basically there's nothing you're going to do. He's going to say, "Oh, he was schizoaffective." So okay. Regardless, just calm down. Just calm down. Enjoy the day. Have a nice day. It's okay. But yeah, no. I mean, at the very least here, my stepfather was a sadist who was bullying me and did not like me, and it's just becoming more and more apparent at the very least. And my mother was, controlling my narrative in front of the psychopharmacologist. She was, you know, I was getting medicated based on reacting to their abuse while I was the passive one. Just that's just the reality. But they say ultimately the answer is to get independent. If you don't like getting abused in a toxic powder keg of a household, well, leave the house. Leave the house. Don't stay in a place where you're getting abused. It's like it's your choice to be dependent on them financially. You know. So like it's like, okay, if you're so your stepfather is torturing you, why are you sitting in your room getting terrorized in there? I mean, it's kind of like, ultimately the answer is to make money and get out of there, not stay in like a fantasy world on the internet. Though, like a solitary fantasy world, wasting your life posting online, hoping that you're going to be a superstar, a millionaire, or a billionaire from social media content. That's basically what it was. While your stepfather and mother are abusing you, that's basically what was going on here. But the key is to not react. The key is to not give in to their rage baiting. It's just the key is to just enjoy life, be happy. Not try to, say, you abused me, you're monsters, you're sexual sadists, and throw tantrums. That's not the answer. They want the reaction. They want the rage. They want me to transform into the Incredible Hulk. That's what they want. Don't give them that. Instead, give them silence, enjoy my life, and be happy. That's what they want. They want me to just like throw an emotional tsunami, throw a tantrum, or is this old psychosis? Are there no hidden realities? Is there nothing that will make me righteously angry? Are there no secrets? I don't know. Just calm down. But yeah, my mother and stepfather's mask has fallen off. I now see them for exactly what they are, which is narcissists and abusers and torturers. It's just I see it. They did not have good intentions. They were probably trying to kill me while creating a facade they were helping me. They were like the Maya civilization, and I was like their human sacrifice from 2005 to 2011. That's just the reality here. That's just the reality. But, I'm not going to, there's going to be no court case. Like they say, if you could put your parents in jail for abusing and trying to kill you, the court would be filled with people trying to put their parents in jail. Just accept you had shitty parents. That's the reality. The reality is you just had shitty parents who were probably trying to kill you while creating a facade they were helping you. That's just the reality here. There's going to be no court case. There's going to be no suing and putting Dr. Copeland in jail. There's going to be no putting your parents in jail. I'm right. I'm absolutely right. But, it's just, there's going to be no court case. There's going to be no justice. They're not going to be getting locked away for the remainder of their lives. I feel like they should. But it's just not going to happen. And if I find out the hidden realities are really bad, don't transform into like this righteously angry, the Incredible Hulk, because if I do, then they can twist it and say, oh, Andrew was the problematic one all along. Andrew was the monster all along. And it erases all the abuse that they put you through. They get the reaction. They get to say to all the relatives, family, friends, Andrew's the monster. Andrew's, and it erases all the abuse that led to the reaction, But it's okay. It's all good. It's all good. Just avoid them. Get independent housing, and get out of here. Basically, just get out of here. And don't empathize with. Don't try to obviously you don't want to be combative with your stepfather at this household, but definitely don't walk on eggshells around him anymore. Give him angry stares. Give him nasty looks. He deserves that because he gives me angry stares and nasty looks. He looks at me with disgust. He looks at me with hatred, and I was passive. I would walk on eggshells. I don't want to fight with him. I don't want to combat with him. I don't want to be aggressive towards him too, because that's a reaction. But just avoid him. Basically, just avoid him. Just end the fucking relationship, and end the relationship with my mother because she knew he was abusing me, and she did nothing about it. That's just the reality. My mother was well aware I was getting, terrorized and abused by my stepfather, and she chose to do nothing. And if anything, she villainized me and said how mentally ill I was. Why am I mentally ill? It's because I'm getting terrorized by my stepfather. But calm down. Don't turn into Red Hulk. Don't turn into the Incredible Hulk. It's okay. Everything's okay. Yeah, I'm meeting friends now. Things are finally starting to go good. I could have died. I could have died from 2005 to 2011. My life in my 20s and most of my 30s was a living nightmare. But also, just it's going to be okay. Also, try to realize, I guess my mother and stepfather and even father could be lying to me. They could be keeping secrets when it comes to my family and stepfamily. But try to accept they're being honest and transparent with me. Nobody was rich, famous, or interesting, or associating with rich, famous, and interesting people. Everything is as it appears to be on the surface. So try to accept that. Could they be lying? Could they have been associating with pop stars and movie stars and so on? I guess it's possible. I certainly wasn't. I was locked in my room, in a fantasy world while they were abusing me. And probably getting off sexually too, my stepfather at least. I can't prove he was getting off sexually. I suspect it though. Gecko Cujo says, Happy Groundhog Day to those who celebrate. Yeah, it's kind of like the movie Groundhog's Day with Bill Murray. The same broken record over and over and over again. Have you ever seen that movie? It is literally Groundhog Day, But I think Groundhog Day is a movie about a broken record, about somebody living the same day over and over again. I don't know how the movie ends. I've never seen it, but I know a psychologist many years ago said your life is like Groundhog Day. I guess it probably ends with somebody finding a romantic partner or a girlfriend and finding love, because that's usually how Hollywood movies end typically, with somebody finding a girlfriend, finding love, and living happily ever after. You know. Gecko Kucher says, yes, I love that movie, and I love Andrew the Android Koloski. Thank you, Gecko Cujo. Thank you. Andrew the Android. Yeah, man. Andrew the Android. Gecko Kuju says you should watch it. It's great. It's the best Bill Murray movie. Yeah, no, I think it would be something I could watch. I mean, there's a lot of movies I gotta watch. I was kind of stuck in fight or flight mode, or maybe I can't focus on a movie very long. I have like no attention span. I can't focus on the plots. I can't focus on what's going on. I feel like I'm in a constant state of chaos. I feel like my home is like a war zone. So if you're constantly afraid and walking on eggshells and getting terrorized, it's hard to focus on movies, and concentrate on movies. It's just hard. But I think since getting into this apartment, I'm starting to calm down a little bit. I'm starting to, be less fight or flight mode. I think things are starting to calm down a little bit, which is a good thing. Gecko Kucher says fight or flight mode is a great way of putting it. You got to understand you're there. Yeah, I'm calming down. I'm starting to, rather than run and walk around the neighborhood all day, every day, I'm starting to lie in bed. And that's a sign of there's no danger. Obviously, the danger around me was my stepfather, and I guess mother too. If you're around somebody who hates your guts and is terrorizing you, of course you're going to be in fight or flight mode. But I need to realize, the danger is getting older and older, and I sit in my apartment isolated from the danger, and it's getting better. It's getting better. And yeah, it's really unfortunate that this monster was terrorizing me. It's really unfortunate that this monster was hurting me. But also, don't react. Don't try to combat with him. Don't try to get aggressive with him, because that will only get me medicated. That will only get them to blame me for being the problematic one. That's just what's going to happen if you try to, assert yourself or try to get some kind of, don't assert yourself. Just avoid, end the relationship, get independent. That's the answer, basically. That's just basically the answer. Just get out of here. Gecko Kucher says it's important to feel safe and secure in your own home, especially when you close your eyes and go to sleep. You always wake up safe. Yeah, I think it was described like my home was like Halloween every day. You know how I would check under my bed for monsters and like serial killers. I still kind of do. Check my closet and under my bed. That's like a metaphor for my home. There's monsters in my home who are terrorizing me. There are people who are bullying me in my home. It's Halloween every day. It's a constant danger. It's a war zone, and that's the reality. But try to calm down. And if my stepfather is trying to fight with me, just avoid him. Basically, don't try to assert myself and get my point across and say, "Look, mom, he's bullying me. Look, mom, he's terrorizing me." Don't try to get that point across. Instead, just avoid them completely. Basically, unfortunately, I have to cut off my relationship with my mother and stepfather. That's just the answer here. Just have no relationship with them aside from dinner, and the relationship's over. Don't fight with them. Don't give them the reaction they seek. Because then they can twist the script and blame you and say you're the monster. And my mom's aware he's been bullying me for the past 25 years, but she just doesn't care. She sacrificed my health and happiness so she could have a romantic relationship. She didn't care what happened to me. In fact, she probably wanted me to die. She was probably hoping I passed away so she could enjoy her life. That's just the reality. She didn't care. She chemically lobotomized me into a state of submission. That's basically what she did. And I was lobotomy man. It was sadistic. It was sadistic in nature. Erie says, that's true. That's true. Yes, I was over medicated. Dr. Copland belongs in prison, if not he deserves to get sued, if not put in prison. My parents deserve to be put in prison, but that's just a pipe dream. It's just not going to happen. Ultimately, I want the truth, but realize I'm never going to get the truth. I'm never going to get accountability from my mother and stepfather because they were, without a doubt, bullying and terrorizing me. And they're just never going to own up to it because they don't want to deal with the consequences of taking accountability for what they've done. So that's just the reality here. They're never going to confess to what they've done. They're just going to say, oh, we had the best of intentions. Everything was good. And we loved him. They didn't. They didn't. They're sadists. They were probably trying to kill me. They're probably trying to murder me, but they'll never admit to that. They'll say, "Oh no, our intentions were always great." At the very least, they were willfully blind. They were enabling me. They didn't care what I did or what happened to me. At the very least, they were just neglectful and didn't intervene when intervention was necessary. At the very most, they wanted to see me get hurt and die. And I suspect the latter is true. They wanted to see me get hurt and die. But you can't really prove that. You can't prove what their intentions were. I believe they were getting off from it and wanted to see me get hurt. Somebody asks, do you think spa housing would be better? Obviously it's an adjustment and I'm scared. I'm so scared of the world. I'm scared of criminals assaulting me outside the home. I'm scared of bullies outside the home. I'm scared of getting into car. I'm so terrified of being outside my home. But I talked to my art class friend and she says spa housing and Independence was the best thing that ever, or wherever she lives. I don't know if it's spa housing, but she says Independence was the best thing that ever happened to her. And, it was great. So I think, obviously while it's frightening, while it will be an adjustment for sure, it will, I think ultimately I'll be happier in the end because I'm no longer dependent on sadists. But ultimately you got to take action to make it happen. Obviously your mother isn't going to work towards getting you independent. You have to make yourself independent. Somebody says, you want independent housing for yourself? I'm certainly not happy here. I just spend all day in a social media fantasy world. I spend all day in, Wonderland or Andrewland or whatever you want to call it. I spend all day isolated, in a fantasy land. It's important to get independent. And stop complaining about your parents. Do I think they deserve prison for what they did to me? Yes, but it's a pipe dream. That's just not going to happen. Like I said, if you could put your parents in jail for abusing you, the courts would be filled with people trying to put their parents in jail. It's just not going to happen. And Dr. Copland, it controls the narrative. He'll say, oh, the medications were necessary. I look like a delusional, schizoaffective man-child. He's a doctor with tons of degrees. There's no way I'm going to be putting him in jail. Although, I think he was negligent. Somebody asks, what do you need to do to get into spa housing? Yeah, I need to get a letter from the doctor. And I need a physical, and I think they'll put you on a list at that point. It's important to take your meds, maybe get a job, and be in therapy. That's important too. And also, obviously, independent housing is important because my mother is going to be 70. My father is sick with cancer, and if they were to die, I'd be up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. I could be homeless or in a psychiatric hospital. I'd be heartbroken over the loss of a loved one, but also I'm dependent on them financially, and I wouldn't know what to do if they died. So it's important to have plans in place, ultimately be independent, so when they do die, I'm not going to be caught with my pants down. I'm not going to be screwed. Gecko Kucher says, that's important, Andrew. Yes, it's important to be independent or be settled. So when your parents die, you're not homeless. That's really important. Somebody says, you have the option to go to spa housing, but you insist on staying. I guess your current situation isn't so bad then. No, it is a living nightmare. However, I'm comfortable. Maybe it's a comfortable pain, And I'm in a comfort zone, I'm always complaining about it. I don't think I'm living the dream, but I guess if hypothetically speaking, my stepfather were like Joseph Fritzl, keeping me in a dungeon and raping me, I'd be more motivated to, get independent. Thankfully, I'm just left in solitude. I could post on social media and I lie in bed in my underwear. Yes, he doesn't like me. Yes, he bullies me. Yes, he terrorizes me. But if it were worse than that, obviously I'd be more motivated. Somebody says, that's a fun reference, the Joseph Fritzl reference. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Did you ever hear that story, by the way? It was some guy who kept his daughter in a dungeon and just terrorized her and raped her and impregnated her for years. It's like really bad. Obviously, I think what happened to me is sad and really bad too, but definitely not on that level. Somebody says you're kind of like, an elderly Chinese woman who, is like the women who are working for a little money, with tons of computers, sending all the bots into the live stream. Like the poor woman in China who's making like, working for peanuts and send like that's kind of what you're like. You're not like the daughter that Joseph Fritzl tortured. Although maybe my stepfather did get off sexually, but still, he didn't rape you or touch you in any way. So somebody says, I am the Andrew the Android Kowalski bot. We should raid Bossman Jack's channel. Somebody says, does Dale give you a tizzy feeling? Yes, I think he does. When I'm around him, I feel weak. I feel like he gets off having power over me. I feel like he gets off sexually from bullying me. And, somebody says, it's interesting that you go on these websites and you look for wealthy older men and women to bully you. And on the other hand, you say your stepfather gives you a tizzy feeling and you feel like he gets off from bullying you. Do you not see the contradiction here? It seems like maybe some of it's projection or maybe some of it is, you getting bullied by your stepfather. I'm not really sure. Erie says, it sounds kind of gay. Yeah, no, definitely. Dale's a man, and he's an older man. He's going to be in his 70s. It is a little homoerotic, quite frankly. Erie asks, are you gay for Dale? No, I like women. I like women in their 20s and 30s. I like women in their 20s and 30s. So me asks, do you want to have sex with Dale? No. I want a sexy woman in her 20s or 30s. But I am really frustrated. So hopefully that changes. Hopefully that changes soon. No, I've never fantasized about Dale. I've never thought about having sex with Dale. But I do. Obviously, when he's like, Andrew, don't touch the washing machine, I do feel the constraints of my life. I do feel the tizzy feeling. I do feel like he's getting off having power over me. When I'm going to the bathroom and I hear him yelling out at the dog, and I'm making a shit, and he's screaming, "Kylie, go potty!" I do definitely feel the constraints of my life and feel it in I feel the tizzy feeling, and I feel like he's doing it to bully me. So, or was. So, yeah, definitely. I wouldn't say, yeah, I don't know. Some Erie asks, it's more of like a frustration. Like, oh my God, I hate this house. Oh my God, there's no end in sight. This is like a nightmare I can't wake up from. Can I go viral on social media? Why am I not in a major motion picture? Why am I not a movie star? Why am I not a millionaire or a billionaire? I don't think I'm getting aroused, because it's more like a feeling of just I hate what's going on right now. I'm not excited about what's going on. I'm in a state of anger over it. I want a woman. I want I have my own washing machine in here. I'm talking about from 2016 to 2019 when I was in their part of the house. I still got trauma from it. Obviously, now I have my own washing machine in here, which they provided for me, by the way. Erie says, LOL. Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. Everything's a-okay. Everything's a-okay. Erie says trauma. No. Trauma from having. Trauma says trauma from being told not to use the washing machine. You poor thing. No, I think he hates me. I feel animosity. I mean, he hasn't touched me. He hasn't hit me. Well, actually, he sort of did. After smashing the plate on Thanksgiving, but I mean, he's never really hit me. And, yeah, I mean, I think he just more intimidates me, and it just whatever. Let's change the subject. Let's change the subject to something a little bit more happy. Let's change the subject to something a little bit more happy here. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like if you talk to somebody in jail or in the psychiatric hospital, or homeless, or detained in some third world country in a death camp, and you're like, oh, your stepfather says don't use the washing machine, don't do this, don't do that. It'd be like, okay, you have freedom. You could get independent if you really want. They would say a lot. All right. So this is, will you ever make music with your art class friends? Have you discussed it? I could talk with them. I could try to make a song with them. I know with Ellie, obviously, I sang the Doug theme. I mean, that's not really an original song, but we sang the do 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 do. So I could try to create a song with her if she'd be into it. I could even try to do it with the other art class friend too. I mean, might be a good idea. We do not like Disney's, Doug. We do not like Disney's, Doug. We only like Nickelodeon, Doug. Gecko Hooger says, I love it. Music is the highest form of art. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, and I know, like one of my friends said, some of this is better kept in therapy than ranting on the internet to anonymous strangers. Maybe I should get a therapist and go on these rants in there. I mean, it would probably be better to have a therapy session and talk about this in therapy, not ranting to anonymous strangers on the internet. I mean, I think your intentions are good. I think you want to help me, but you're not trained medical professionals. I mean, I think you're giving me good advice to the best of your ability, but you're not trained psychologists or psychiatrists. I mean, it's okay to have friends and inpatients that are like therapists, but ultimately you should talk to a psychiatrist. Erie says, I noticed autistic adult men tend to target their female caregivers rather than the men. The females take the brunt of the abuse. I don't know how to elaborate on that. I mean, that's your opinion. I mean, maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong. I'm not really sure. But interesting. Yeah, that's a fun fact, I guess, or not a fun fact. That's a fact, I guess, or maybe not even a fact. Maybe it's just something you're saying. So yeah, I obviously get paranoid that my cousins, aunts, uncles, step family were all having fun with pop stars for the past 15 to 25 years, having the time of their lives, with tons of money, and they were excluding me from it. But try to realize that's just a fantasy I'm coming to a feeling of conviction about. Nobody has confirmed and corroborated that I was not being excluded from, money and fun and a nice life. Nobody was looking at me as an insect that they were stepping on. Nobody was terrible. It's just. No, somebody says, is it illegal to have fun? No, it's not. Of course, it's not illegal to have fun. But I feel like, my parents should have communicated what was going on. If they were hanging out with, let's say, Taylor Swift or Lady Gaga or whoever the rich, famous, or interesting person may be, and they were excluding me, and I was sitting at home all day, every day in my room for the past 25 years in a solitary fantasy world while they were all enjoying their lives, well, I think somebody should probably communicate that to me. I think somebody should probably tell me that. I think somebody should probably, let me know what the secrets are. And I'm not saying it's a crime, but somebody should probably let me know. And, especially if they're laughing about how they're all having fun and excluding me and how I'm sitting in solitude and they're crushing me like an insect, like an ant or, I think that should be communicated to me in some way. Obviously, it will make me angry. Obviously, it will upset me. But I think it should be communicated to me. I feel. So he says, do you let your cousins know who you hang out with and include them? No, I do not. But then again, I don't really hang out with or do anything. I just sit in my room and live in a fantasy world. I mean, recently I've started meeting some art class friends. But, basically, I've had no life for the past 25 years. I've just sat in a solitary Joanne Greenberg fantasy world. Deprived of interpersonal relationships, over-medicated. And I'm sure my mother was telling all the aunts and uncles what a monster I was, how Andrew's not getting independent. And so I'm sure they heard, the problematic cousin is just sitting in his room doing nothing. That's probably what they heard, you know? Somebody says, why would you expect them to include you if you don't even talk to them? I don't know. I mean, I guess it's a fair point, but I would like to know if they were associated with millionaires and billionaires and they have tons of money. You know, if they were stepping on me like an ant and laughing at me and bullying me behind my back and laughing at my social media. I'd like to know if that was going on, you know? But I'm led to believe they aren't rich, famous, or interesting people. I'm led to believe they weren't associated with rich, famous, and interesting people. So just toggle the switch to off, you know? Erie says they probably don't even think about you. Let's be honest. Yeah, I mean, maybe they don't think about me. That's a fair point, you know. That's a fair point. I mean, maybe they don't think about me. I don't know. I don't know. I think there's a song. Is it by? It's either by Morrissey or the Smiths. We like it when our friends fail, or something like that. You know, obviously the gist of the song is, you know, we like to succeed. I mean, but if we're failing, you know, you don't want to be the gas station worker working for minimum wage while your cousins, aunts, and uncles are multimillionaires or billionaires. You know, that's almost like too much of a gap. I mean, obviously, if I'm a millionaire and they're billionaires, who cares? You know, it doesn't really matter. But if you're like an ant and they're like these giants that are stepping on the ant, well, I mean, that's kind of too ridiculous. You know, it's almost sadistic. It's almost like sadism. You know. You know that's kind of, you know, and also, you know, I was optimistic in 2019. You know, I think there's a song by the Smiths, please, please, please let me get what I want. You know, Lord knows it wouldn't be the first time, or something like that. I think it came on at the very lounge. I stepped on debris and had the HIV accident. In 2019, I was optimistic things were finally gonna get good for me, and I was gonna be successful and a performance artist performing at Madison Square Garden. And unfortunately, I had the HIV accident, so I didn't get what I wanted. Instead, I got probably one of the most traumatizing experiences of my life, though it was an accident in my choice, which is quite ironic. You know, the song "Please, Please, Please Let Me Get What I Want" didn't play the night I stepped on the debris. I think it played a few months prior, but it was the same location. But it's kind of ironic, I believe, right? Erie says there's a song by the Smiths called "I Know It's Over." I know there's another song. Peter says, "Do you think you're not funny? Because I think you are. I think I'm funny. Yes, and I really like comedy, and I really wanted to get into comedy for the longest time, from like 18 years old. But also, you know, I'm getting older. But you know, I mean, don't be an ageist. I guess I could get into comedy." Good times for a change. Please, please, please let me get what I want. Lord knows it would be the first time. I think it goes something like that. Erie says, give it up, bro. Give it up. Give it up. Good times for a change. Then I got the HIV accident. I got really bad times, and the next 6 years were a fucking nightmare, basically. Damn it, I did not get what I wanted. And it's going to only get worse. My mother's going to die, and I'm going to be homeless. And then I'm going to get a terminal cancer diagnosis and die on the streets. Woo! Please, please, please let me get what I want. Lord knows it would be the first time. All right. So that was a good therapy session. I should pay Erie and Gecko Cujo and Peter for listening to me and giving me advice. I think Erie was trolling and fucking with me, but I'll give her a nice hefty check of $300 for this session. Thank you, Erie. I'm going to give you a $300 check. Thanks for listening to me. You obviously worked hard in school to get your psychiatry degree, and you get a hefty check of $300 for listening to me rant for 45 minutes. Erie says, no, but seriously, get those warts looked at. They're not warts. They're cysts. I got it looked at by a dermatologist. They said they could. I think it's because I'm hairy, and I don't shave. And I think when I run, the underwear and sweat, and I think that's how it develops, to be honest with you. They're not warts. They're benign. They're cystic. I think they're acne. There's pus in them. It's not warts. Yeah. Obviously, I probably should get a doctor, but I have no money for one. And the mental health dude at the clinic, that was it was covered by insurance. It was like, yeah, I might as well get mental health advice from Erie. That's how much he was helping me. I might as well listen to Erie on social media. That's how much that guy was helping me, really. So, I might as well just say, all right, we got Dr. Erie in the house, and Dr. Gecko Cujo, and Dr. Peter. Now give me mental health advice while I rant at you. Unfortunately, you get what you pay for in life. If you don't want to pay for a good psychologist or psychiatrist, well, you're going to get the mental health dude at the clinic, some guy who's practically a student who doesn't know what he's doing. Erie says, where do you give me advice? Well, you're saying things in response to me ranting about my mental health. So I guess I won't give you the $300 check then. I'll only give it to Gecko Cujo and Peter. Peter asks, are you inscannable? What does inscannable mean? What does that mean? Well, I don't know what that word means. I could Google it and see what the definition of that word means. Okay, here we go. Inscannable. I don't know what that word means, guys. Can you elaborate? That's kind of a new term. Let's learn what that means. What does inscannable mean? Don't leave me hanging. I don't want to give people dead air. Peter, let me know what inscannable means. All right, or give me dead air. Somebody says it's from the movie Idiocracy. I've never seen it. Oh, what is it? Can you give me some context? You just gave me. Okay, let's Google inscannable Idiocracy. Inscannable Idiocracy. The director wanted a type of shoe so dumb that nobody would wear, but now people actually do wear them. Okay. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. It's the doctor scene. I've never seen the movie, or I've seen bits of it, but I haven't seen the whole movie from start to finish. So I can't really comment. But I get what the movie's about. It's about a society, where somebody of average intelligence is the smartest man on earth, and everybody's stupid. It's made by the guy who made Beavis and Butthead in Office Space. What's his name? Is it Matt Groening? No, what's the guy who makes that? No, Matt Groening's the Simpsons guy. Who's the guy? He voices Mike Judge. Mike Judge, right? Yeah, he voices Anderson on Beavis and Butthead, and Hank Hill on King of the Hill. Mike Judge, that's right. I wouldn't have gotten that. I don't know. Maybe I have dementia. How did I not know it was Mike Judge? Yeah, he's pretty funny. I like the movie Office Space. I found that movie funny. Some people say, do you see parallels and similarities between me or Peter Gibbons, or am I just romanticizing the character and say I like him? Kind of like how I also say I'm like Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, Sid Barrett of Pink Floyd, the Joker from Batman. It's like, all right, I'm like Peter Gibbons from Office Space too. So, Gecko Cooger says Office Space rules. Yeah, it was a good movie. I enjoyed that movie. So, Gecko Cooger says, you are like all of those people. I am like Lane Staley from Alice in Chains. I am like Joanne Greenberg. I am like Bruce Banner, the Incredible Hulk. Who else am I like? I don't want to go with Michael Jackson because I think he's, suspected of pedophilia. But then again, he never was convicted, so maybe I could say I'm a man-child like Michael Jackson without the pedophilia allegations. No, Erie says, you're like Jared Fogle. No, I am not like Jared Fogle. Peter says, you are like Mr. Bean. Yes, Mr. Bean. Fair enough. I like the Mr. Bean. He's pretty funny. He's a comedy legend. Gecko Cooger says, you are like Daniel Johnson. You are like a young Tom Cruise. Very good, very good. These are some good people aside from Jared Fogle and possibly Michael Jackson, but he was never convicted. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. You don't want to be the Subway guy. You don't want to be a pedophile because that's some bad nefarious stuff. That's not good. Actually, that's probably one of the worst things you could be accused of, pedophilia. You don't want to be seen as somebody who hurts and does nefarious things to children because that's just not a good look. Not a good look. Not a good look. Yeah. Which is why, obviously all these politicians and rich, famous, and interesting people in the Epstein files, it's like, yeah, we could say Donald Trump and Bill Clinton and so on. I think they're false allegations, and Jeffrey Epstein was trying to take everybody down with him. But yeah, pedophilia is just not a good look, I think you just don't want to be associated with the pedophile ring guy. It's just not good. I mean, I'm sure they're innocent and they didn't do anything wrong, but just not good to be associated with the pedophile ring guy. So he says Trump is all over those files. No, I agree. Here's my take, and the same for Clinton. I think Jeffrey Epstein hated Donald Trump, and I think he was trying to take him down. I think he was trying to slander and tarnish his name and reputation, but I don't think Trump was a pedophile. I like to think the president of the United States of America was, I think he was making up false accusations and allegations to ruin his reputation. That's what I think. And he was getting pictures with all these rich, famous, and interesting people. So when he went down, he would take everybody down with him. That's what I assume. I mean, obviously, I don't know, but that's what I'm assuming the reality was. So he says Trump is innocent. He doesn't have anything to hide. So he says everybody was basically innocent. I'm sure there were some pedophiles and people doing nefarious things, but it's probably not the people you suspect it is. It's probably some of the that's what I'm assuming. I'm assuming Jeffrey Epstein wanted to make everybody look guilty by association. He wanted to make Bill Clinton, Donald Trump. He wanted to make all these people look like pedophiles, but they weren't. TB says, Andrew. I mean, obviously, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't know. I'm just assuming. But, I wasn't there. But that's just what I'm assuming the reality is. We got TB in the house. He says, Andrew Koloski, how art thou? I'm doing good, TB. How are you? Anonymous says, Trump is on the flight logs of Epstein's plane. No, he did have connections to him, and so did a lot of people. But yeah, I don't want to think like everybody in Hollywood, all these celebrities, all these wealthy people, all these politicians, two former presidents. I don't want to think everybody's like pedophiles. You know that like if that were true, that would be pretty weird. You know, I think he just had a party island. He was a rich person, and he happened to be a pedophile, and everybody looks guilty because they associated with him. They were unaware of the shady things he was doing. That's what I'm assuming. You know, we got Let It Be in the house. How art thou, Let It Be? She asks, how was my weekend? It was pretty good. It was pretty good. Anonymous says, we're talking about Trump being a pedophile. I don't think Trump or Clinton or any of these people are pedophiles. I mean, Epstein obviously is. I mean, call me Pollyanna, but I like to think, if you're the president of the United States, you're not doing anything like that, I mean, if you don't have to like Trump, you could think he's a jerk. You could think he's a mean person. You could think all kinds of things about him. You could think Trump's a horrible person if you want. I don't want to think of him as a. I mean, I know they said he does have a criminal. I don't want to think of him as a pedophile. Yeah, pedophilia is pretty bad. Like that's like really bad. I mean, like he was arrested. He got the mug shot, okay, but like pedophilia, like that's like next level. Somebody says Joseph Fritzl, Brian Wilson, Pollyanna. Yeah, I think Epstein was just a shit poster. He was sending tons of emails. He was trying to tarnish a lot of people's names and reputations. I think that's just what was going on here. He was taking everybody down with them. It was, they were partying on his island. They were taking pictures with him. They were unaware he was running a pedophile ring, and then he just basically, like all these people were in his emails, and it just looks bad. It looks really bad. You don't want to be associated with the pedophile ring guy. The pedophile ring guy is obviously not somebody you want to be friends with because it makes you look guilty by association. Maybe I'm Pollyanna, maybe I'm Pollyanna. Maybe I just want to see the best in people, but I don't. That's just what I'm assuming the reality is. I think Epstein just had it out for Trump and was trying to tarnish his name. Even if you don't like Trump, even if you think Trump's a jerk, I don't think he's a pedophile. I mean, you can dislike Trump all you want. You can be a Democrat, you can be a bleeding heart liberal, but I don't think he's like a real nefarious criminal. You know what I mean? Anonymous. Gordy says there's millions of files, not just on Trump, but on lots of people. Yeah, and okay, I expressed my point of view on the Epstein files. Let's move on from it. I don't think the people that appeared in the photographs and emails are really guilty of nefarious things. That's my take. That's my perception. Call me Pollyanna. Call me naive. Call me wanting to see the best in people. I don't think there was, nefarious wrongdoing by the people everybody wants to think was doing wrong. We just want to see the rich, powerful politician, the guy that everybody thinks is a jerk, get taken down and get arrested. But that, I don't think he really did anything wrong. TV says some people got the Trump derangement syndrome. There are things you can hate him without stretching. Yeah. You can hate Trump all you want. You could think he doesn't really care about mentally ill people, homeless people, and you could hate him for all those reasons. But I don't think he was a pedophile. That's just my take. You could dislike Trump for his politics. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Obviously, what the hell do I know? I wasn't on Epstein's Island, but I'm assuming he wasn't doing anything, like that. You can hate Trump without stretching it. You can hate Trump without, thinking he's. TV asks, when are you getting the new apartment? Hopefully soon. But I gotta get, obviously, a letter from the doctor and a physical. Somebody says, do they help people with schizoaffective get cheap apartments? I think it's based on urgency. If I was homeless, I'd be bumped to the list top of the list of urgency. Right now, since I have a place to live, they don't consider my case to be urgent because there's people that are in desperate need of housing. But I could get put on the list, and it will happen in time. All right, guys. So that was a pretty good live stream. It's pretty interesting. It started off with me ranting about my parents. Now I've calmed down, and we're talking about. I'm more chipper now, and so he says, "Do a song. What song would you like? You want Stuck in a Moment You Can't Get Out of by U2? The fruits of my body. The fruits of my body. The fruits of my body. Apples and bananas. Apples and bananas. Grapes and strawberries. I work hard. I deserve a delicious treat. The fruits of your body. The fruits of your body. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Adios, amigos and amigas. Yeah, so Let It Be says, I like this mug, Andrew. Yeah, I got it from my art class friend. She bought it for me. And it was a really thoughtful gift because she knows I like coffee. And, she knows coffee is like a medication for me. And she also knows... I took a lot of medication for schizoaffective. So, she so I think it was an interesting gift, Adios, guys.